feel it. And Tim, I'll let you open it up. And
Okay, I'm just going to briefly. This is what, our third workshop on this?
Third,
I've
at least.
Lost track. All
Were
right.
we expecting the Tree and Beautification Committee here for this?
They were invited,
They were invited.
I listened
Okay.
I listened to them on television for a few minutes while I was preparing, and a lot of them had other commitments, and I don't believe
Okay,
they'll be here.
that's
So
it. Okay, but we
they
did provide them with the package, and we actually also advertised that they would be here, or could be here. I think. All right, Sherry nods her in approval. I just want to. We took in the comments that were done at the last meeting. I think the major ones first, that we're going to allow off-site relocation. And that was one of the issues came up. Can we do it off-site if they want to take a tree? But this would have to be with the consent of the Public Works Director to move the tree and to negotiate. Whatever the costs are would probably be borne by the applicant. So we did provide that provision in here. We had the thing on the protected tree. All the replacement trees have to be at least 3 inches DBH now, except for the palms. So it have to be 10
foot tall.
10 foot. Okay. And that was at Nanette Haynes' recommendation that we might as well make them all just to make sure they'll survive. And the bigger the diameter of the tree, the more chances they're more mature, they have more chance to survive. So we added that in there. And we made some other minor amendments, editorial, to make it read better. I think the main thing I tried to do is I went through our some recent tree removal permit applications, and I've provided examples in there. So to show how our current ordinance works, if you didn't waive the mitigation costs, and then it applied to these specific projects. I also had our properties. I also included some aerials so you could see how the properties looked when they came in to get the permit approval. So unless you have specific questions of me.
Yeah, Tim, we had a young family here looking to develop their site, and they had big DBH trees on there.
Uh-huh.
And he said that he tried to plan his, the structures around these trees and couldn't do it. And yet all he did was he spoke to us. We didn't see anything regarding his efforts. Could we tighten that up a little bit? On page 1 of 12, you've got that. It's number 5, description of efforts and options the applicant has considered. Because all we had was his verbal on it.
No, he's supposed to provide in his written application the information of what he did. Okay. If we're taking in not enough information, that's up to my staff to make that decision.
But you do that to staff, not necessarily to us. Is that
right?
correct?
I mean, there's two ways. If they have to come to you, then obviously we want to have a full package. But you have an opportunity to find out from him under his testimony, because he's under oath, of the information. Normally, we'd want him to have sufficient enough information because the staff also makes recommendations. Mm-hmm. But now he won't be coming to you any longer under this code. It'll be to us.
He has to define. He has to give a drawing. And
there's a lot of.
I mean, that's what I
But a lot of
approval, because they're not going to take his word for it.
Is that all specified?
Well,
here?
yeah, because he has to work with the staff. See, when we're doing, remember, the staff's doing the site plan review.
Yeah.
So any type of changes in the site plan and moving the building around, he's working directly with staff. The staff knows what he's doing.
My recollection of the issue that Honey's brought up is the fact that staff testified to the effect that this particular individual had done everything reasonable.
Because the staff knew, had been working with him.
Yeah.
And we're going to do the same thing. You're not going to see these any longer if we go this route. Okay. And the staff does work with them to make sure that they've done every reasonable effort to do that. Okay. And, there may be other questions, but yes, we do that. And Mr. Burke's correct. The staff did testify on that, and that would have been sufficient for you at the meeting.
I guess maybe I just needed to
know
what
all right.
staff knew,
No,
No,
that's all right. That's all right.
I'm going to ask the board, do you want to go through this individually? But we have, matter of fact, we should open it up to the public officially, and seeing nobody in particular that wants to speak, I'm going to close the public hearing on it.
Well, there's no public hearing. This is a workshop.
It's a workshop. Okay, if anybody wants to speak from the public, including our one distinguished guest, they can come up and speak now.
Yeah.
Seeing nobody, we've closed that, I guess.
I think we've been through this in considerable detail in previous meetings, and it seems to incorporate all of the things that we wanted it to incorporate in terms of giving appropriate staff the ability and the authority to make judgments in individual cases
administratively,
and to which removes some onus from the applicant's point of view. I also like very much the idea that it takes into account, by way of mitigation reductions, the total impact on the tree canopy itself on the property. I think it's got a lot of good things in it.
Which begs the question: why are we workshopping this again?
Well, because there were still some issues, and I got your agreement. We wanted to have one more workshop.
Okay.
Well,
we didn't take sea grapes out.
At least you aren't bringing those sable palms up again. Okay.
Garbage palms.
Be careful of those sable palms.
State tree.
A couple things I'd like to just mention, if I could, on page 2 of 12. When we talk about, I think you should mark septic systems in there as one of the items that should be identified. I think that's important. Where it doesn't reflect on that. It talks about all kinds of power lines, easements, structure, but septic field,
septic drain field,
drain field should be identified.
Okay, I'll put that in.
Okay,
yeah, that's just a very good idea.
Mm-hmm.
How does one locate or identify a drain field?
It's on your site plan.
It's on your site plan.
My site plan?
If you want to get.
Do you have sewer? I mean, if you have sewer.
No, I have a septic tank.
But you do. It will. Yeah. You have to show where the location is.
My house is 60 years old.
Well, you won't have to show it if there's a tree is probably not on your drainage field or it's not operating.
You can't have it. You can't have a tree then.
Yeah.
Yes, because it's brand new. I happen to, but I wouldn't have in the
But
past.
your drain. This is really look at a new development where you're putting a house in and you're going to have to put a drain.
Oh, okay. A new.
It's
new
not.
septic.
Yeah.
We're calling for an arborist to come in and the tree is dead. That's an expense to the applicant.
The only time they have to do that is if we disagree.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Forgive me.
I mean,
we're going to.
Well, normally my staff can go out there and they're familiar enough. And if it's too complicated, we'll get Nanette to come out to take a look at it, and because she's very knowledgeable about that. And if there's a disagreement, then they're going to need an arborist.
I accept that.
Okay.
And if it's not dead, you can kill it.
Yeah. The only, and I tell you about the only thing is where the age of the tree is more than 80% of it, then you would need an arborist, unless we know, we can define it. As I said, I have some flexibility as a planning director to decide what we don't need to have in it. I mean, that's the whole idea on these things. They don't know, you can't fit every case that comes in.
Would you tell me, because maybe a little more, under E on page 5 of 12.
Okay.
Item E.
Oh, that was why we had that in there. It had to do if you wanted to take a tree down, but there was no reason why you were taking it down. You were trying to get a waiver from that. And I decided, one, we've never had that happen. Two, it's too open. Just get rid of it. Okay. So basically, we had the reasons you could take a tree down. They're itemized. Either if you're doing construction, that's clearly a reason you can take a tree down, just meeting the requirements. The others, if it's diseased, endangered, then you can take it down. The whole idea to have a waiver there was just another loophole, and I didn't. It wasn't needed. We never had anybody come in here, and nobody can understand it anyway, so we could just throw it out.
Okay. I'm in favor of the idea of mitigation when we have a heavy tree canopy on a lot. Require that person to mitigate, I think, is unreasonable. and I really think that the factor that we use there could be improved a little bit for that person, and that's one of my thoughts. I believe that if you have a heavily canopied lot and you're taking down the trees that are necessary for your house, and the rest of your lot is canopied, why should we? That person is, in my opinion, shouldn't be penalized.
Well, there's up to 90% reduction in the mitigation requirement in a situation like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why 90%? If you have a fully canopied lot, do you pay anything, even to take that, to build your house? I don't see that. That's all. You can't ask for more than 100% of your lot being canopied, but you have to pay a 10% fee. And you already went through the process of paying a permit fee to tell you that you have to pay a 10% fee. I just think that some of those things are a little.
Well, I mean, the other way is that we could reduce. I mean, I'm just saying, if you think it's too, I gave you examples of how it would be, and I mean, part of the mitigation is to restore canopy is no longer there, and so you're building a house. Yeah, is it fair to the people that built way before? No, they didn't have to do that, and there wasn't. But now that we've had a tree ordinance for these years, there is some public interest in preserving the tree canopy. You're aware of the rules, so before you buy a house, there is going to be some mitigation thing. The question is, what is fair mitigation on the thing? I mean, certainly, if the 10% reduction isn't, let's say we could reduce by half all these. I mean, it's a balancing act. I need some direction from you all, and you can see what impacts that has. I still think they should have some mitigation on this. The question is it fair? And we could, you could do that. We just adjust the factors.
Well, my point is that this is not a source of revenue for the city that we're trying to get. This is to preserve our tree canopy and to keep our city a tree city. And
you need the money to go into the fund because this money is used to put replacement trees in. It isn't used for landscaping. But you're picking individuals to pay into the fund, and other individuals don't have to pay into the fund. Well, they do if they're going to cut any trees down. I mean, everybody has to now. You're right. People that developed a long time before we had these never had to do any of that. But I think we've come to the point. That's why we have these bouncing acts that we talk about. What is a fair thing to do here? There is some cost here. I mean, we've been both ways on this thing. Larry, I don't know. I mean, my suggestion, and I don't know how the rest of you feel about this. I think the approach is great, and I think it's pretty straightforward. I'd be concerned not to require any mitigation at all, even if you have a covered lot, because I think that then you're requiring mitigation of people that have trees on lots that don't cover the whole thing. I mean, they still may have some problems. I think everybody has to bear some fair share of this. And the whole idea is here, the more tree coverage you have, the less you have to pay, which is, related to your impacts.
Well, I think I agree with Larry. If you've got a fully canopied lot and you build a house and then the after aerial shows the roof and a otherwise full canopy, if you were to do replacement mitigation, there wouldn't be any place to put a tree, or let's say to some percentage of that. It wouldn't have to meet 100% standard. But if there's no place to put a replacement tree, why should you have to write a check? You're still fully canopied, less your roof.
Well, I mean, in many cases, it won't be generally fully canopied because, you're not going to take out many trees then if you're going to still be generally fully canopied, and that'll be affected.
You take the footprint of your house and the driveway and the
But see, you move back, you're not going to be fully canopied anymore after you do that. Most of these people are going to do that. They're going to put a swimming pool in, and suddenly you don't have a full canopy. There won't be a full canopy anymore, not for a while. It'd take a long time.
And in today's world, we're looking to do as much of it as we can.
But so the alternative, if there's no place to put a tree,
well, they don't. Very few, except for most of them, do some replacement on site, relocation. But most people pay the fee. They take a tree down. I would say almost 95% of them they pay a mitigation.
What percentage relocate the tree?
I don't know what the percentage is. I mean, it'd be nice to have that information. Well, a lot of commercial ones would do it because they've got the wherewithal to do it. Mm-hmm. It's a lot. It's a little more difficult for the homeowners, except for the more expensive homes where, to move a tree is expensive. That's why I think I explained to you when I was looking at this first, I thought we'd give more credit to people that relocated on site. I moved trees.
That seems reasonable too.
That we'd give them more, but the cost to do that, maybe it might be cheaper to pay in the mitigation fund. So we were torn between those two. But I wanted to make this as simple as possible. That's why I got to this.
My point, and I think Larry's point, is if there's no place to move a tree to, because it's already fully canopied or at near full density.
Well, people are going to pay.
I don't think you have to write a check.
Why do they want to remove trees?
Because they put their house in.
The point is, if you make it too easy, then people are going to remove trees just willy-nilly, and they'll show, well, wait, I had to do this and I had to do this. This also has it makes people think more about what they're taking out. I mean, if you have a mitigation cost, if you get rid of all the mitigation costs, you get back.
You use the word all. I don't think I ever use the word all.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
I'm modifying the mitigation when you have a fully
and that's what I said.
Lot, and therefore it may be down to, on that case, it's a much smaller amount, and the percentages may be able to be.
Well, I said we could drop them in half.
Oh, I think that may be too much. I'm not looking for. I'm looking for something in between. I mean, this is in some ways good, but it's not. It shouldn't be burdensome. That's the point. And Tim and I had a separate discussion. And I'll tell you about it. And that is how I feel about how this impacts the lower, less expensive lots in our city. We had this last time. How this impacts a person in that neighborhood, not the way it impacts the person in more affluent neighborhoods. And I think that we have to be considerate of those people. And the people over in the island, and that's where you say the more affluent live, not necessarily, but most people don't buy a wooded lot to destroy it, and most people that live there are trying to save trees because they're valuable. They're an asset. So I don't believe that anybody, I think it's very, very few people that want to take down trees unnecessarily. I think he's the exception. Now, we've had one or two in history, but there's always an exception. Most people don't want to go out and do bad things, but there's somebody who will always do bad things. We don't write laws to penalize everybody because one or two people in the city want to take extra trees out of their yard. That's my point.
Well, let me ask you then: are you more concerned that it has a more of a direct impact on, say, on the other end of the income spectrum? On the lots. I mean, we could build in. We talked about this rather than addressing these numbers, leave these numbers alone because, as I said, these large lots, people got money. You buying when you're like in Central Beach when these are $200,000 to $400,000 lots. The trees are moving trees around, not a big deal. But if you're getting these lots particularly on the mainland where they're down to 16, 20,000, 25,000, it may definitely have an impact on it. We could put a threshold cut, and Peggy looked into this. That's a reasonable thing based on case law, that we could have a threshold that under that there wouldn't be any
threshold on the cost of the property?
On the property for the value of the lot itself.
What is planning theory on class warfare? Because kind of what we're talking about.
Well, no, everything's in a we do it based on, on that kind of thing.
I should think that a wooded lot had far more attraction to it than something that was just bare.
I agree, but we do have smaller lots where the costs. I mean, I just looked at that lot. Where was that lot over in Osceola Park? They had the big tree on it. It's right in the middle of it.
Yeah,
it's
huge.
You can't build a house on there really without taking it down. And I don't think the lot's that expensive, $28,000, something like that. I'm trying to remember. I was getting that. So I mean, we could build in that kind of protection in there. Some cutoff to handle that thing. I mean, I just need to know where you like to go on it. I mean, I think I'm happy with what we have here. I need to know.
I'm not comfortable with slicing and dicing here because of socioeconomic factors. I mean, one law should apply.
I mean, I would agree with that too, but I think the scale should be slid down somewhat to give more. If somebody has a canopied lot, we should charge them less for as we get into how much they have to pay. That's all, because they're already helping us out with a canopy.
But if you take the factors, like if you cut it in half, then you have to modify that by how much canopy you have. You have
we would
90% or
like
70%.
The 90 to 100%. We just 5%. You'd be down. It'd be a 5% of the cost. It'd be half of it.
It's not. I don't think it's a big deal. It's a matter of changing these numbers right here on this page, as far as I'm concerned. Instead of paying for 90 to 100%, it'd be 5%, and from 80 to 90, it'd be 10%.
And remember, these are only for the trees within the buildable area. Everything around the setback you got to pay full mitigation.
We're talking about the house siting area, and that's why I don't think we should penalize for putting their house. And got everybody up here put their house, and probably none of us paid to have our trees mitigated that we build our house on. But this guy now doing it now is now all laws change. I recognize that.
I don't understand why we penalize on the footprint. Now maybe a swimming pool, because that's an optional item. Nobody's going to build a 3,000 square foot footprint as opposed to a 2,500 square footprint so they can tear down more trees. But when you've got a footprint of your house, you can't have trees there.
Well, and that's true, but the footprint we're talking about, it's a big footprint. Most people don't build to every setback to cover the lot. The building is usually within that buildable area, and it doesn't include the entire. The building usually does not. I've not met one yet, or I've seen a building that is the entire buildable, the setback area that can be built within. That isn't what happens.
I thought we were seeing that.
See, they're usually moving houses around on the lot. The issue comes back if you have no mitigation there, people could just clear out. It gets that effect where you just have perimeter trees around an area that's been,
That's what I was addressing when I said nobody's going to build a bigger footprint just so they can tear down more trees. If they want a 2,500 square foot footprint, that's what they'll build. But why they have to pay to have the trees under that are in that footprint removed is beyond me.
It goes back to the whole reason we have this ordinance. Mitigation, they want to protect the tree canopy, and if you want to do it, we're going to let you do it. You have to mitigate for what you've done to the tree canopy. You're getting at the essence of why we have this ordinance to begin with.
But the only thing
replacing it with a roof canopy.
Well, what about the donation of the removed tree to public property?
Right, which you can do.
Yeah, and that mitigates.
We got to get something.
But there's a cost. There's a cost.
There is a cost to move it. That's true.
See, they don't come and get the tree. You send the tree over and plant it and take care of it and maintain it. And if it dies, you fix it again.
Well, no. I don't think it's quite that bad.
It's pretty straightforward.
It's somewhere in the middle.
I don't think so.
I think when they pass the owner of the city, then it would be the city. But the city would have to take the tree, or they would have to work out the negotiations to do that. However, that would be done.
To take the tree.
Yeah, and the city doesn't plant.
And they don't have to take it.
Right, and the city takes care of it. Doesn't take care of it until after a year, right?
Well,
I
know you're reading that. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd be very comfortable passing this along to the city council, along with your comments about some reservation that was expressed up here. Does that make sense to you, Tim?
Certainly. That would be. However you would like to go on this side.
Honey, I think we should.
I think the mitigation is important. I don't really want to see that, starting to whittle away at it.
I want to whittle away at the mitigation in the footprint of the house. In the footprint of the house area, I don't think you should have to mitigate that to build a house on your lot. On all the peripheral trees, I do believe you should have to mitigate it because that's a choice.
Well, Chairman, you said there was some mitigation.
I'm still arguing yet. When I compromise, I'll do some try.
Yeah. But,
I think Honey's idea is a good one. Yeah. And we could pass it on with
that. If you would like me to do that, I'll bring that up. I certainly can put that in my report about the concerns. Both yours.
Can we cut those numbers in half?
I'm in favor of that.
Well, I can.
In the proposal.
I have to come back for a hearing on this next month, okay? I mean,
us?
what I could do is come back with this ordinance and also
This is the
have the option to cut it in half. How's that? And then at the meeting, you don't have a full board here yet. You'll have more. Will we have more of a full board next month? Sherry's looking at
I
me.
don't.
I don't know.
It would be the.
Dawn?
It wouldn't be
Dawn
till
and
at least the 15th before we could.
Well, Mr. Croteau won't be back until September.
So he
Oh,
won't be
well.
here.
So,
Okay.
and then Robin,
I thought she was going to be gone for
And we
a
don't
month.
have an alternate yet, right?
Mr.
a
Burke
second
is your
alternate?
alternate. No, we don't have a second alternate right now.
Okay, well, what I could do is come back with the ordinance and also have an option that you could insert that at that meeting if you would like. Then you can make further. I'll do some more look into it, but I'll do that if that'd be all right.
I'd like to try to get the decision made.
Well, you
I
can't make
think
a
we can-
decision in the workshop.
Yeah, this is.
Okay,
This is just the
well-
workshop. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Well, you like yeah, that's what I'm saying.
All
I
right,
can bring-
I think that's fair.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, you're gonna
agree.
have that
I agree.
opportunity.
No, I agree with you.
Okay.
We may not agree in the total end of it, but I agree
Yeah.
with you now.
Workshop's over.
I think it's a good move.
It's a good.
Okay, then we agree on that. I think that's
Yeah,
the basic
and I
conclusion
will
for you.
write it up and have it in there. You'll have it in writing, and it'll be available for the public to see, so you'll see that.
Remember,
okay?
if Honey doesn't show up for the next meeting, it wasn't me. If nobody has any other questions, are we looking to finish this workshop?
So moved.
Absolutely.
So moved, and thank you.
Thanks, Trick.
Okay, thank you.
Take the rest of the day off, Tim.